I'm Noah Abrams, and welcome to The Days Between, a show where I talk to my friends, people I admire, and people I want to better understand about success, failure, happiness, and misery, as well as all the other elements that make up a life well lived. Along the way, we'll look at mental, spiritual, and physical health, and when life didn't go as planned, the steps they took to get themselves from A to B and beyond. This week, I'm speaking with Miranda Whitcomb Pontes, a self-described serial entrepreneur. Miranda's imprint and influence on the Nashville restaurant and hospitality scene is immeasurable. There are a few people in this world who can carry themselves on their first name alone, and in my experience, Miranda is certainly one of them. As I mentioned in our discussion, you could throw a rock at Nashville, and it would be impossible not to hit someone who has either worked for or has visited one of the restaurants she helped bring to life. In 2012, she suffered a very personal tragedy in a very public way, and not only had to endure the fallout from that tragedy, but find a way to pick herself up and, with the help of the community, continue to keep moving forward and ultimately thrive. Miranda's story is proof that success can be defined in many different ways and is also more often than not created through unconventional choices and taking paths where the outcome isn't always clear, but the instinct and feeling behind those choices always is. Here's Miranda Whitcomb Pontes on The Days Between. One of the things that I thought was interesting in doing the research is your name is so synonymous with hospitality in Nashville in and of itself. It was interesting to me to find that you're not from here.
No, I'm from Ruston, Louisiana.
Tell me about Ruston.
Ruston is a small southern town, real close to Arkansas. A lot of people always assume if I say I'm from Louisiana, they think, cool Cajun, New Orleans, but it is absolutely nothing like that. It is, I feel like there's a divide in Louisiana above Alexandria and below Alexandria. And I was in the not cool part, which is above Alexandria.
How did you get out of Ruston?
I mean, I do tend to be quite spontaneous, but I wanted to move to San Francisco, but I thought, living in North Louisiana is easy. I knew that living in San Francisco was going to be extremely hard, but there was something about thinking about living in San Francisco, thinking about moving there, that I got so excited about, and I started to create this image in my head of living there.
Had you been to San Francisco before you moved there?
No, never. So I thought I wanted to be in the fashion industry. My entire life, I've always loved clothes, and I've always loved just the whole understated elegance of fashion. And I applied to the Neiman Marcus Buyers Program, which is held annually or year-round at their flagship store in Dallas, Texas. Well, I didn't get in, but I told my mother that I didn't get into that program, but I got into the program in San Francisco.
Now, was there a program in San Francisco?
There was not a program in San Francisco. So I fabricated this story, created a date that I had to be there to start my program in San Francisco at Neiman Marcus. And it became a reality to me. In my mind, yes, I'm going to San Francisco because I have a purpose, a job. I'm in this program. And I have to be there on this date. So just get myself ready to leave.
So what was going on internally for you though? I mean, was it more important to just keep this story alive, or was there any part of you like freaking out?
No, I wasn't freaking out at all. I have grandiose thoughts and ideas, and to set myself, I present challenges to myself that are a stretch. So if I tell somebody I'm going to do something, there's no way I was going to back out. The more I talked about it, the more real it became, the more confidence that it built in me when they would respond to, wow, oh my God, San Francisco, Neiman Marcus, really? And I was like, yeah, really, And it just started developing a confidence in me, I think coupled with defiance too. I think defiance we're going to come back to that, I'm sure. But anyway, confidence in me that I knew it was going to be all right. I typically do this. I create something in my mind, whether it's a place or a trip or running a marathon or whatever it is. And I can see it done, or I can see myself there, wherever there is, and I reverse engineer it. And that's what I was doing then.
But at the same time, you're also manifesting confidence for yourself.
Yeah. It was going to happen. And there was no way it wasn't going to happen.
So tell me what that felt like when you get in the car that day.
Oh my God. I'll never forget. It was like Pearl Jam was the CD that I always remember, the Trip CD. And I just felt like I felt free. I felt alive. I felt like myself. I felt like I'm about to go out into this world and I don't know what it looks like, but I'm all about jumping off the cliff and not knowing if there's a net. And I don't even try to think about what the net is going to look like. I just jump and have always thought I'll be better because I'm going to jump. It'll be better for me.
Okay, so here you are in your car by yourself, all your stuff packed up. You've got Eddie Vedder singing Alive. You're feeling alive. Mm-hmm. You land in San Francisco day one. What's that look like?
I land there and I go to Neiman Marcus and get myself a job there because I knew my mom was going to check on me, which she did. I didn't apply for a job anywhere else. I just went straight to Neiman Marcus and just bullshitted my way to get a job there.
Was it the job that you had invented for yourself, or?
Well, but the job I invented for myself wasn't really a job. It was a program. So I don't know that my mother ever connected the dots. All I know is that she called a couple of days later to Neiman Marcus and asked for me, and I was able to answer the phone.
Did you find San Francisco to be what you thought it was going to be?
I was a fish out of water. I was terrified. I was both terrified and excited at the same time. I didn't know anything. I thought all my clothes were wrong. I thought how I talked was wrong. I thought my hair was wrong. I became very self-conscious and nervous that I don't know if I can pull this off, But a couple days into my new life in San Francisco, I look for my car, and it's not there. It's not where I parked it. And I wanted to make sure, because a lot of times you lose your car in San Francisco because, you got to park 5 or 6 blocks away from where you live. But sure enough, I had lost my car, or it wasn't there. And when I found out that it had been stolen and stripped, I remember calling my mother, crying, thinking, she's like, yeah, okay, you tried it. You can come, you need to come on home. And when she said that, I thought, there is no way in hell I'm going home. There's no way. I got to figure this out. I'm not going home. So the next call I made was to a rental car place, rented a car and drove to Yosemite. Got the time off, told work what had happened, and said, look, I got to get out of here for a couple of days. This is 2 weeks in, I think. So I went to Yosemite, again, by myself, and just set a challenge for myself of, I wanted to get to the top of Half Dome. And I thought, if I can get to the top of Half Dome by myself, I can come back and be okay in San Francisco. And I did. I just had to build up resilience, internal resilience, mental resilience. Go back to San Francisco, continue to work, did the quintessential San Francisco car purchase, a sob. And everything was all right for a while.
So how long were you in San Francisco?
Until 2000.
No, but how many years between?
So, 6.
6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 years San Francisco, and then where did you go?
To Boulder, Colorado.
What brought you to Boulder?
Well, a relationship. A conservative, really sweet man that wanted to leave San Francisco, and I thought I did too.
You go from leaving San Francisco, I would assume at the time a very fast-paced life, to Boulder, Colorado, doing
nothing, which was horrible. In fact, it was awful. Moving somewhere, not knowing a soul, relying on another person to, I completely lost myself in questioning, was this the right thing to do? Am I with the right person? I was relying on this man for my happiness, for introducing me to people and financially supporting me, which is probably I should put that in the first of the not the right thing to do. And it was havoc on our relationship. And so we actually I think we got engaged somewhere in there, even in the chaos of it all. But then we broke up. I was in grad school and I was doing well and I was meeting new people and I was going skiing all the time. I became more attractive in his eyes because I was independent and I was confident. I became me again and he liked that. So we got back together after months and months of 2 times a week therapy, really intense couples therapy. And I kept thinking, we don't need to get back together. We don't need to, this is not right. It doesn't feel right. But I thought, okay, if we went through all this therapy and things are, we're getting along, we're enjoying each other. And yeah, so we ended up getting married.
How old are you at this point?
32.
32 years old, in grad school. You have reconnected with yourself. You're in this relationship that you're not, is it safe to say you weren't 100% about?
Well, I mean, once I committed to getting married, I was 100%, yes, at the time. I became 100%.
So how do you go from Boulder, Colorado to Nashville?
Right before, or a couple of months before we got married, this man decided to, all of a sudden out of the blue, just decided that he wanted to go check out Nashville, Tennessee. And I thought, okay, he's going to go and he's going to get this out of his system. I mean, he could sing really well. I mean, he's a talented musician. He could have made something out of that. So he says he wants to check out Nashville. He goes to Nashville, goes to the Grand Ole Opry, does all the things, comes back and says he wants to move there. And I thought, no, my God, I had left the South. I'm never living in the South again. And then fast forward, and I caved or surrendered and said, I can be selfless here. If he wants to do this, I'll give him this, So we got married, lovely wedding, and moved to Nashville. And the trip there was horrible. And then a couple of weeks into living in Nashville, knowing not a soul, we lived in some corporate apartment that was basically half underground, so it was super dark in there. And I remember waking up one morning thinking, man, I'm sore. I don't feel well. Something's up. And sure enough, I was pregnant. I had gotten pregnant on my wedding night. And because I was pregnant, it was my fault that his dream of being in the country music business or being a musician in some capacity, I made it impossible for him to do that because then we had to put on our grown-up panties and get insurance and do all those things that one needs to do when they're pregnant. And he ended up getting a job, a great job that could support us. But I had fallen back into that state of I'm insecure, I'm out of place, I'm not being myself, I'm dependent on someone else financially. And it just wasn't a good time.
So how did you turn that around?
Well, we stayed married we had bought a house and I was becoming this Southern Green Hills mom, and I had just chameleoned myself into the environment and accepted it and became part of it, made some friends, but I still didn't have a job. I don't think I had a job, or if I did, I did have a job. I worked at the Lifeway Christian bookstore corporate headquarters in the accounting department for a while. So after my son was born in 2003, I knew that I needed to work, needed a job. And so similar to the move into San Francisco story, it took one person to mention opening a coffee shop in Nashville, Tennessee over dinner. Wild hairs popped up all over my head, and it was that was it. I imagined the coffee shop up and running, and that was what I was going to do with my life at that point. So I bought myself a book, and it said how to open and run a coffee shop. It was actually a workbook. Bought the book, read the book, signed a lease, and it was just a series of naivety after that. Went to Home Depot, bought a crowbar and a sledgehammer, and proceeded to start demolition in this house. Basically, it was a house before that was going to be a coffee shop. And then just through a series of kindness of strangers, managed to open the coffee shop within 6 months.
And what part of Nashville?
12 South.
And for those not familiar, what is 12 South now?
Well, 12 South is like the posh, bougie, hipster, super expensive.
And what was it then?
It was a place that if you talked to anyone in Nashville and you said, you wanted to go to some restaurant and maybe it was close there, don't cross 12 South. Don't even, stay away from 12 South. There was a lot of drugs, a lot of, it was just a little rough, but I loved that. I loved it about that.
Do you think it was the contrast against that Green Hills housewife? Is that what you
Probably, yeah. And I had a purpose again. I had something I was working towards. So yeah, I felt very much like this was the right thing to do. Also defiant, because I tried to start it with my then husband, and we quickly learned that wasn't going to work. And at some point, when the coffee shop was really in its early stages, he really wanted to move back to San Francisco or to the Bay Area to be close to his family. And I didn't want to. I wasn't going to, because I had established myself like this was what I was supposed to do. It's important to mention that we broke up somewhere along the way there.
You opened this coffee shop in not the best area of town as your project. You've got a son at the time.
He's 6 months old.
Okay, so you're raising a 6-month-old. You're opening up a coffee shop. What was the value to you looking back at just
blind faith?
Blind faith, yeah.
Tremendous. That was it. And I didn't have any fear. That's the key. I had no fear.
What was your experience as a woman doing this by yourself in the South?
I had a really good experience being a woman. I did not feel, it definitely I got some favors, I'm sure. I was just nice to people. I would go down to Codes and earn the respect of, all the good old boys in Codes. And they were really helpful and really kind. And I believed that they respected me and they wanted me to succeed, and they were incredibly helpful. So I never thought of myself as being a minority or played the woman card. It was just I was a person that was opening a business in a rough part of town that felt right to me.
And how did the neighborhood of 12 South at the time embrace?
Well, they didn't, which I was so surprised. There was another coffee shop a couple of blocks down the road, just a little super simple, not scroungy, but just a cool little coffee shop. And people thought that I was trying to put that place out of business. And that is that's the last thing that I wanted to do. And I kept thinking, I didn't learn much in economics, but I did learn that the strategy around Burger King and McDonald's opening across from each other or in close proximity to each other. And I kept telling people that, I said, I'm apples and oranges. We're apples and oranges, these two different places. So, more people might come to this neighborhood and they're going to eventually go to both of our places, hopefully.
Was it important to you to ingratiate yourself to that neighborhood?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to be embraced, accepted. Yeah, totally.
And so what did you do to win them over?
So during the demolition phase, when I was with sledgehammer in hand, I'd heard that a church was getting torn down and the neighborhood was all up in arms because it was a beautiful old church. And some man named Bill, who is my friend to this day, was coming in and going to put up some condominiums. And so I went and looked at the pile of rubble and negotiated through, I guess, some contractor to buy a pallet of bricks because I thought it would be so cool to have a brick wall inside the Frothy Monkey that was part of this old church.
And the Frothy Monkey is the name of the coffee shop.
Oh, shoot, yes. And I borrowed some random guy's like Datsun, some old truck, tiny old truck, and I put the bricks in there myself and brought them over to the Frothy Monkey. And I told my contractor that I wanted to put them, build a wall. And he said I was absolutely insane, crazy, and that the floor would not support that. So they ended up having to build a wall underneath the brick wall in the basement to support it, because there was no way that those bricks were not going to go on that wall.
How much experience at that point did you have running a business and hiring people?
0.
How would you describe your hiring process or your management style? And the reason I ask is, for those unfamiliar, you can throw a stone anywhere in Nashville, and chances are you'll hit somebody that has either worked with or worked for or knows somebody or lives with somebody who has worked in one of the establishments that Miranda has started. And I'm curious to hear from you your management style and how you went about hiring people. What were you looking for?
I mean, I was looking for people who would reflect my personality or my love of the neighborhood. And I didn't know anything about coffee either. So I was looking for some, people smarter than me, and also that I could depend on to represent what I hoped the Frothy Monkey would become. And I was just extremely gracious and patient with people, humble, and we earned mutual trust real quick. Always thought it was so important to hire people that a lot of places would shy away from because of their inconsistent schedule, especially people in the band and people that had gotten in trouble with the law and they had a flaw on or significant flaw on their in their background. Just wanted a place that give people opportunity to pursue whatever it was that they wanted to do with their life and also have a job to support it.
What value do you think there is in giving people second chances and taking the risks on people that normally wouldn't fit into the mold of somebody that any establishment would necessarily hire?
I mean, it's like you got to love somebody until they can love themselves again. And that sounds very intimate and very, the use of the word love, but it's as if I'm giving a signal to this person is that I don't judge you. I don't judge you from your past. And I welcome you into this establishment, and here's the job that you will be doing and the expectations. So if you just do this and show up then it became, there was a shift where at first they were nervous and, thinking that everyone was judging them. And then there was this really beautiful shift to when they became themselves again.
Frothy Monkey, the coffee shop, gets open, is doing quite well. How do you make the decision to jump into your next project, which I am assuming was Burger Up?
Yes, Burger Up came to be because the folks that owned the property where Burger Up was going to be would always come in the Frothy Monkey to talk with potential businesses that could, would work in that spot. And so I would watch the different concepts come through the Frothy Monkey. And
how far is, just for people that aren't familiar, how far is Frothy Monkey from Burger Up?
I think it's 4 blocks. So 4 blocks down the street. So anyway, I would watch the potential lessees or the concept that was going to take the space. And one day I asked one of the owners of the property, what about, it seems like it just needs a burger, just a good burger, a good place where, adults could have a adult cocktail, kids could have a burger, and everyone would have something it was just something easy. And the guy said back to me, well, okay, who's going to do that? And before I even realized it, I said that I would.
And what did you know about running a restaurant?
0.
So you had run a successful coffee shop at this point based on a book that you
Well, okay, so let's back up. I wouldn't call it successful. It is successful now because the right people are managing it and running it, and it's doing really well. But at the time, it was just a series of mistakes and learning the hard way and knowing who to hire. I hired the most amazing. I mean, the best hire of my life was this man, Ryan Pruitt, who was my manager for a long time and knew a lot about coffee. And so he came in and helped me get it off its feet, really. Otherwise, I think without Ryan, it might not have worked, actually.
So you took your manager from Frothy Monkey when you started the Burger Up concept.
I pulled him. Yeah, I tried to pull him back and forth, yes.
What made Burger Up different from any other burger place?
Well, I'd watched Food Inc. with my son, and it probably traumatized him. He was maybe 4 at the time. And I thought, I mean, we live in Tennessee. There's cattle farms all over the place. And Food Inc., for those who don't know, is just basically uncovering the truth behind, where your beef comes from, your conventional beef and chicken and pork for that matter. And it was horrible. And I thought, well, we've got cows here, so let's build a relationship. Let's try to build a relationship with a local farmer and use their beef. And one day, Landon came home from school during this time and said, "Hey, Mama, Miss Lee has cows." And Miss Lee is Cynthia Lee, and it was his naturalist teacher. And I called her, set up a time to meet the whole family out at Triple L Ranch, and we just immediately bonded and managed to work it out so they were going to be our exclusive supplier of beef. And nobody else was doing that. I mean, this is the time where farm to table was like the word, the phrase. And I kept thinking, well, if you think about it, McDonald's is farm to table. So come on, let's just do it the right way. And, I was paying probably 4 times the price for beef by using Triple L because it was so important to me that it was a win-win for both of us, that they were going to make the money that they needed and that I was going to be able to support the price that they needed. But I could have made a ton of more money had I gone the conventional route, but it was just something that I couldn't do.
How do you balance, though, your personal values with, the way that you hire people and giving second chances, the way that you're now spending more on your product when you could be spending less and making more money? How do you achieve that balance?
Well, I'm banking on that by doing the next right thing, everything's going to work out. There's an altruism in there for sure. It's just the way I'm wired. I just have to, I can't fake it. I could never be a salesperson. I couldn't sell anything I didn't believe in, put it that way.
At this point, did you feel like you were back to yourself again?
Yeah, totally. The wild hairs were all at attention and I had another purpose. Frothy Monkey was cranking away, and I was a few blocks down the street building a restaurant from the ground up that I could choose I made every decision around.
So Burger Up's up and running, I'm assuming doing well at this point. Frothy.
Out of the gate, Burger Up was a huge success. It was so wild that we were running out of product all the time. We were just scrambling, but it had created the environment of Burger Up was such, it's like people wanted to go there for the experience of being there.
What's going on in your personal life at this point?
In 2007 or 2008, before Burger Up was even thought of, I worked a lot at Frothy Monkey. I loved being there. I loved being behind the counter. I loved building the relationships with regulars or people that would become regulars. And all of a sudden, there was this man that started coming in. I'd never seen him before. He just kind of appeared out of nowhere. And I am really confident behind the counter. I feel like I'm in my element at the coffee shop. But when he would come in, it's like my armpits would sweat. It was crazy. I'd never experienced anything like that. So that's Michael Pontes, and he would come in, and I was intrigued. And so I guess he caught on pretty quick that I was intrigued, and we decided to show up at the same place at the same time, and that was like an art show down the street. And ever since, after that, we were in each other's lives.
Romantically?
Yes.
I very specifically remember being on a tour bus with a band based out of Nashville. And I remember it being early morning, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. and everyone had more or less received a text saying the same thing. And everyone said, did you hear what happened at Burger Up? Did you see what happened at Burger Up? And everyone's on their phone. And I had, at the time I was living in Los Angeles, and I had no frame of reference as to what Burger Up was or what they were talking about. But once everyone had called home and gotten off their phone calls, they filled me in. Can you tell me what happened at Burger Up?
Michael and I got married in 2008, and I was smitten. We were smitten with each other. And I would see Michael with my son just come alive. I'd see my son come alive. And it was really good for a while. It was really, really good. And then it wasn't good. He had been sober for this whole time. He'd been to rehab right before I met him, and had really changed his life, and was just, just doing great. And he got off track somewhere in there. Actually, I chose not to believe that he had started drinking again. And one night, a group from work, my young employees, called me and said, "Hey, we're all eating the chocolate brownie with ice cream right now. Why don't you come down and eat some with us?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool." But then when I got there, they had an intervention with me to tell me that Michael had been drinking and was drinking all the time at the bar. And
the bar at Burger Up.
The bar at Burger Up, because he was bartending. I mean, terrible, terrible idea. And leading up to that, I could smell it on him, and I would call him out on it, and he would just say, "I'm working at the bar. Of course I'm going to smell like alcohol." And I chose to believe that because I did not want to believe that he was drinking. But he was, and then confronted him, and he admitted it, and it was this moment in our relationship that I just didn't judge him. I just said, "Okay, what do you need? What do you want to do here?" And he got a counselor and went back to rehab. And, I supported him. He was turning his life around again. And I was just so happy for him. I was happy to see him come back to himself. He went to this great place in Pennsylvania. So I would fly like every week to go to family time. And it was just, I loved his counselor. He just totally got Michael. And when it was time for him to be done with the 30 days, the counselor suggested that Michael stay on for a little bit longer. And Michael wouldn't have it. He was like, "I'm good. I'm all good. I'm ready to go back. I miss, working. I miss you and Landon." But what he discovered while in rehab was that it just unlocked a whole Pandora's box of his childhood, which was super traumatic. And knowing now what I didn't know then, it makes complete sense. I experience this sometimes too, that when I'm reliving or had a trauma as a kid, that it keeps popping up in my life, and I want to do something to numb the pain. And fortunately, the pain is not consistent. And I think for Michael, the pain was consistent. And the only way to keep the pain at bay was to self-medicate. And if you don't self-medicate, the next step is that even though you think there's a possibility that life is going to be okay and you have everything is so good, it's still, the pain is too much. And if you don't medicate, you don't want to be a part of this world anymore.
And so Michael chose to
take his life. And he chose to take his life in a very public way. So there's a week leading up. This is like late February 2012. And I just was getting all this series of texts from him that were just, I just thought, okay, he doesn't mean this. They were pretty hurtful text messages. And I just thought, okay, he doesn't mean this. He's drinking and it's okay. But then it just ramped up over the next few days. until one day I just thought, he's in trouble. So I called a friend of his and I said, I think Michael is in a lot of trouble. And I called my mother and I just felt it.
Now, were you two were still married at this point?
We were married. We were not living. He had gotten an apartment. After rehab, drinking and substance abuse just was amplified. After a period of being sober, once he started drinking again, it just as if it would just it was a lot worse than it was at the beginning. And so I told him that he and I could not live together if he was going to be coming home in that state, because I had a small child. And so he got an apartment. I mean, and things were, we would kind of go in and out of contact. And so a few days leading up, I just got increasingly worried about him. And the night where I reached out to a friend of his and to my mom, I took a strong pill to sleep because I was worried about him. And I just went to sleep. And about 2 a.m, I opened my door to Ryan Pruitt, and he said, Michael's gone. And what he meant by that was that he had taken his life in Burger Up. He had also decided to leave I'm not saying this with any kind of, I completely understand why he did all the things that he did. He spray painted my house. He trashed and vandalized Burger Up to the point where, broke all the windows out, or most of the windows, and just wrote horrible things in the, bright orange spray paint all over the restaurant. And he made a significant exit for sure. Made a statement. And then another important detail is that I guess right before he decided to end his life, he sent an email to everybody on his every one of his contacts. And he had contacts from the music industry. He had worked for Keith Urban. He had worked for Miranda Lambert. He had people in high places and all over the country that were his friends. Everybody loved Michael Pontes. And he sent an email to his entire contact list that must have said some pretty horrible things about me, because it was bipartisan after that. It was and I never read the email, and I still haven't to this day read the email. But it must have been impactful enough that the town divided, basically. People just chose to believe whatever he said and to take action accordingly, and that meant I was out of their lives. But then there were plenty of people who also read the email who chose not to judge or chose to not believe it, and became super supportive through this whole time. And I just remember when the sun came up and looking at Burger Up and all the things he destroyed, all the things that were broken, that there was no way that I wasn't going to reopen. And I didn't even think about it. I think we've got to reopen. I cannot let this be this defining moment. This is not where Burger Up ends. And so I didn't go climb a mountain, but instead I went out into the woods for 4 days, just hiked every day until I couldn't hike anymore, and thought about what to do, and came back and had a meeting with my entire staff. And I told anybody who didn't feel comfortable, I would give them severance pay and help them find their job or whatever. We were going to reopen, and I wanted to have as many people who wanted to be a part of that to be a part of that. And actually, when I'd gotten home, a lot of the staff and the neighborhood had come together and put Burger Up back together again. It wasn't even it was well on its way to getting open. We were only closed, I think, for a week.
How'd that feel?
Remarkable. I felt like, I could accept the people who didn't want to be a part of my life anymore. I just was overwhelmed by the people who chose to be a part of my life. The love in action and the grace, and nobody asked them to do all this. They just did it.
One of the things that I've always admired about you is, and to a degree, I still have trouble understanding, but why did you stay? Was it the community? What? And you have a town divided by his actions and by his email. What kept you here? What kept you in Nashville?
Burger Up was my home. Burger Up was my family, and I needed them. So I never even thought about leaving. That was my home.
You reopen after a week. You have a town divided.
It sounds so dramatic. I mean, it was just, there were people that were never going to go there again and never going to accept me after that.
How do you deal with that? Because I as much as in my experience, Nashville has a reputation of being a community and being welcoming and friendly in the southern aspect of it, it is still a small town. And there is still quite a bit of backbiting that does go on. And I've seen it and I've experienced it myself. How do you deal with that? Do you even acknowledge it, or do you just keep the blinders on and just keep moving forward? And is the success, the quiet response to that?
I mean, my quiet response was that I believe that people have a right to react to any situation the way they react to it. I mean, it's tell somebody how to react. So I just always said to myself that this is their right to respond this way, and I accepted that.
Professionally for you, what comes next?
So about a year later, there was a new development about 2 blocks to the left of Frothy Monkey, and they needed a restaurant anchor. And so I had an idea that would work well in that space. And so I sought out the developer, brought him to lunch, told him my concept, and next thing I know, he was giving me a lease, and that became Josephine.
So now this is your third restaurant space.
Within the 6-block radius, I think, of 12 South.
And then Josephine opens.
Josephine opens. I started Josephine, the road to Josephine by myself, but I took on a partner before Josephine opened, thank goodness. And somebody that we would say yin and yang. I mean, I'm the visionary, creative, think anything's possible, and he had come from a finance background and so could help keep one foot on the ground for me and help me make wise decisions. And so, yes, Josephine opened, but at this time I had sold half of Burger Up and we became partners with that and opened Josephine together. So we co-founders of Josephine.
And then it seems very quickly after that you were involved with several other projects throughout Nashville. And the one that sticks out in my mind is Dino's.
Dino's is such a great story because this woman, Alex, who was one of my very first hires for Burger Up, I remember interviewing her. We were sitting in a booth at Frothy Monkey, and she was just so confident, this young whippersnapper. She had been working in a sandwich place, I think called Goldie's, downtown, and she just had this air of trustworthiness, and that could count on her. She was fundamental at Burger Up, and then helped Josephine open, and she helped hire people for Josephine. And then Josephine hadn't been open that long. She came to me and said, "Hey, I heard Dino's is for sale." I mean, Dino's is like the dive bar, the coolest dive bar maybe in the country at this point. But and she said, "You want to investigate? You want to do something here?" And I was like, "Absolutely. Let's buy it. Let's do this." And in my mind, I'm thinking, look at this story. This is this woman who I had hired and now knows more than I do probably about the business side of running a restaurant. And she's coming to me to buy a business together, and not just a business, like the coolest business. And so it was never a thought. And we purchased Dino's together and met with a lot of resistance in the neighborhood. Everyone thought we were going to turn Dino's into Burger Up or...
Which neighborhood was this?
Oh, this is in East Nashville. So I'm way out of my comfort zone. So I'm in another side of town. I'm going to have a whole new wardrobe for East Nashville.
Well, tell me about East Nashville.
I mean, it's like the hate in Pacific Heights in San Francisco. It's like the cool, creative, yeah, less about what people think about them, but just cool, cool folks. And then 12 South was just becoming more bougie and bougie all the time. So very different. They thought I was going to infect them with bouginess. And it kind of felt like the initial response from the neighborhood at Frothy Monkey. And I want to say, if you guys don't know me, y'all don't know me at all. I would never do anything to change the integrity of this restaurant or this bar. We just need, there are dead possums in the ceiling. Like, we got to clean this place up. I don't want to serve you food here if it's in this condition. So we did right by the neighborhood, and slowly but surely they embraced and came back in flocks to Dino's, and then Alex was running it because was way over my head with Josephine and Burger Up at the same time. And so eventually it made sense that I would sell my part to Alex. And she, to this day, still owns it and runs it. And she's couldn't be more proud.
And then what comes next?
A lot of partying, a lot of I can't spend the money I have made fast enough, a lot of really incredibly thoughtless decisions, and I lived the baller life for a couple of years.
Was this your personal life catching up with you?
Of course, yeah, I'm sure. It was just, I remember vividly thinking to myself, I'm sure one morning when I was very hungover, and I was thinking how alone I felt, even though I had the financial means to fly to Miami when it was cold or to go to Montana when it was hot. I just remember thinking, I have never felt so alone as I do right now with all of this financial freedom, because I didn't have anybody to share it with. But I was on a restaurant roll. I was on a entrepreneur role and found another opportunity for a restaurant. Actually, they came to me, the owners of this beautiful historical building, and it was this beautiful spot in Germantown called Geist. And I remember the owner, developer, they actually just bought the property, came to me and said, we believe that you'll do right by this place. And I'm sure they told other people the same thing, but it made me feel good about hearing that from them, because I knew that I would keep the integrity of the magic of that space alive.
Just to back up here, though, so at this stage, your personal life is still in somewhat of turmoil. Did you feel like having another restaurant opportunity would be the anchor to pull you out of that, or was it just something to run to avoid?
I don't know. I didn't even think about it. There was an opportunity, and I was on a roll. I just thought I could see what Geist was going to look like on the inside. I could feel how it would feel when it was open. So I pursued it. And I pursued it not by myself, because if I learned anything through this entire entrepreneurial career, restaurant career, is that I'm really good at some things and I'm really terrible at a lot of things that are crucial to the success of a business. So I needed to find somebody like I found in the partner in Josephine that could offer the business side and some logic and rationale around decision making. And so I sought out a partner to open that.
I remember doing the research just for this conversation, and it was referred to on more than one occasion as Miranda Pontes' opus, her masterpiece.
Oh, I never saw that. That's interesting.
What ultimately happened with Geist and Lulu?
Well, it was a tragedy. So I met who would become my partner because I had actually wanted to buy a piece of property in 12 South back in, I guess it was 2014. There was this perfect spot that I thought would make a perfect boutique hotel, little boutique hotel. Well, this man heard that I wanted to open a little hotel, and he wanted to open a little hotel. So we had lunch at Burger Up, and that lunch turned into him coming to check out Geist, and us, talking about, or him listening to the concept, and ultimately became my partner. So Geist was going to happen, and then there was a new construction happening right next door to Geist that needed to be a restaurant, and the developer, they weren't really excited about the the potential tenants, and I took that as my opportunity to open yet another restaurant that was called Lulu, or going to be called Lulu. And the same thing again. I could see it in my head. I could feel it. And it was just another series of reverse engineering to get it open. And so
at this point, you're opening 2 restaurants.
At the same time. So I was like, yeah, I can do this. This is not going to be a big deal. And I remember, go back to the bricks. The man that owned the property that tore the church down, that I got the bricks from, was very good friends with a banker. And they would always come in frothy monkey, and I would try to woo the banker into loaning me some money. And of course, banks don't like to loan, restaurants or money for restaurants. And I came back to that same banker before when Geist and Lulu were going to happen, and he actually said yes. And so my partner and I took out a fat loan to open both of those restaurants from a banker that had watched me mature over the last 10 years in the restaurant world. So he felt comfortable in giving me a loan.
And what happened?
It all went to shit. It just went to absolute shit. I made so many mistakes. I mean, I lost myself. I didn't trust my decisions anymore. Started listening to all these voices outside of just other people's opinions on what to do. It just all went to shit. I mean, Lulu got open way over budget, and it was never the concept. It didn't turn out to be what I thought it was in my head, because I listened to other people. And I'm not saying that it would have succeeded had it turned out to be the vision that was originally in my head. It was just, I felt like after it opened, I was scrambling to patch it and to make it what I thought it should be. So it was just, it never became Lulu, really. And as Lulu was bleeding and dying, so was my relationship with my partner. And then ultimately, Lulu closed, and I lost my part of Geist as well. So Geist never happened, and Lulu died. And I owed the bank a shit ton of money. I was significantly and utterly broke dick, to the point where I had to sell my house. And during the time of living the high life, I did make one good decision, and that was remodeling my house in 12 South. And looking back, there was these stages of, God, I might have to sell my house. Well, at least I have the house to sell. I can't sell my house. Shit, I'm going to have to sell my house. There's no other way. I'm going to have to sell my house, because the alternative would have been to file bankruptcy, and that where I don't judge people who do it, it was just not an option for me, because this man, the banker, who didn't trust me until this last ask, gave me a loan that I signed my name on, and I was not going to take the easy way out with bankruptcy. I felt like I owed not only him, I owed a ton of people a lot of money, and so the house was the only option.
So what do you do?
Well, I fall into a deep, self-deprecative pity party that landed me in about a year of deep depression. And I failed. I failed, and I let the failure define me. I let the failure consume me. And when you're in it, it's like you don't even, there's no way you're ever going to be out of it, because it's so consuming. But there were times where I needed to go to the bathroom, and the bathroom is about 4 steps from my bed, and I just couldn't get out. I wouldn't get out of bed. I mean, it sucked. It was awful.
But how do you move forward?
Well, in the good old Miranda fashion, I guess, is let one thing spark a wild hair and then decide and put one egg in one basket and make that be the thing that I'm going to do. I sold clothes. I have sold my watch and bought it back multiple times, through this. And I would go to the grocery store when my son wasn't with me. He's with me every other week. And literally think, I've got $5. How can I eat on this for a week until I can find another way to get some money? My mother and I weren't speaking. It sucked. So around Christmas of, I guess we're in 18, I happened to see through LinkedIn, because, people that need a job go to LinkedIn, and I was looking at my sad LinkedIn profile and happened to see this ad for Harvard Business Analytics program, and the wild hair just popped up. It gave me the same fire and the same, I guess it wasn't the same high as I felt when I was packing up and moving to San Francisco without a job, but it gave me a sense of purpose and like, okay, I need something to kick my ass. I need not only something to kick my ass, but I need something to tell myself or to prove to myself that I can do something audacious and succeed. So I don't know how I managed to manipulate my way into the program, staying up all night, on several occasions, writing my statement of purpose. That the first go around, the advisor just said, no, just period, no. You're going to need to completely redo this. And to the point, from that no until the yes of being accepted into the program. And I started the Harvard Business Analytics program in April of 18.
And what age are you at this point?
Old.
So after several...
I'm probably, 49, I guess, by then? Yeah, 49.
So you went back to school at 49 after several successful businesses. What happens to the ego at that point?
There's ego in the fact that I thought I needed to do something audacious, like pick the most prestigious school in the world and the hardest program. I'm not analytic. I don't have an analytic brain at all. So there was ego to prove to myself that I could do something like this, and to prove to everyone else who gave a shit that I could do something like this. And it really was to show my son that I'm not going to let this failure consume me. And if I don't get up and get busy doing something, that it's going to have a tremendous negative impact on his life too. I needed to demonstrate resilience.
But why not just open another restaurant? That's what you know.
No, I don't. Obviously, because after Lulu and Geist, I didn't trust that I knew restaurants at all. And I was done with the restaurants. I chose the analytics part of it because I used to say things like data schmata. That is so ignorant. I sound like I'm from North Louisiana when I say that. But had I done some more homework and understood more of the analytics behind demographics and all the things that are important when you open a business, that perhaps things would have been different with Lulu. But I just thought I needed to awaken that side of my brain anyway, and it would only help. It could not hurt if I were to do something like that.
And there was no part of you that was saying, I'm a successful restaurant owner. I had a failure, and now at 49, I'm choosing to go back to school.
No, I was a failure, and there was no recollection of any success whatsoever in my life, because I would think that they only remember your last failure. They only remember what you did last. Whoever they are. And I wouldn't let myself feel any sense of pride or accomplishment with any of the successful restaurants. I just put on the coat of failure and held on to that tightly.
Which is fascinating to someone like me, because I can drive down to 12 South and be like, that's a Miranda spot, that's a Miranda spot, that's a Miranda spot. And even go as far south as Franklin, which is, 30, 45 minutes away from Nashville, and see oh, there's a frothy monkey. Your imprint on Nashville is so far and wide, and that's just on the business side. That has nothing to do with the people. So it's interesting to me to hear you say at that point you felt like a failure.
Well, everything was dark. I mean, it was just, I was in a spot that, like I said before, would not allow any kind of self-worth to step in. It was a spot of, that was it, failure, period. And so
you went to Harvard.
So I went to Harvard and I graduated in January of 20.
And what are you doing now?
I am the marketing director for a nonprofit in Nashville.
And what does that nonprofit do?
Helps entrepreneurs. It's the ultimate give back job. I mean, it is. It follows my age, my career trajectory. It's a parallel to the Alex story with Dino's. If of any types of organizations to work for, this is my first job too, since I was a temporary employee with Lifeway Christian. So I'm grateful that it is a nonprofit that supports entrepreneurs.
Looking back on your career, do you think it's fair to say that your first act was the first wave of Nashville entrepreneurs in setting the tone and the climate and the atmosphere and the mood for what Nashville would eventually become known for? Your second act was helping grow other businesses. And now this third act is helping to grow the state.
I would never think of it that way. And it sounds so lovely and all the pieces fit in neatly when you say it that way. I think of it as an analogy to a quilt, that I was a quilt. I was a piece in a quilt, 3 pieces in a quilt in 12 South that ultimately brought the community, that played a role in bringing the community into what it is today. And so, yeah, I don't think of it as acts, or it's just, I would never say it the way you just said it. I'll buy it. I'll take it for sure. And I'm grateful. It makes me feel really good to hear it that way. I just would have never thought of my career that way.
How do you define success?
Freedom. That's a tough question. I think it's an important question. It's so difficult to answer. It changes as I age. At first it was success in my mother's eyes. So when I made some money, when I was supporting myself and opened a business, and then 5 businesses, when she always would say that I was doing the wrong thing and that, oh, just come on home, or always undermining my ability to successfully pursue something that terrified her. There's a little bit of that right now still, because money equals success in her eyes. And so it doesn't in mine. It means freedom, of course. There's a definite financial factor in there. This is a tough question, Noah. There's also some bit of self-worth. Self-worth plays a role in defining success for me, and it's, of financial freedom and independence, of ability to choose where I live, choose where I travel, choose what job I have. So I don't feel like I have to fit into a mold, and I'm not there yet. So I have experienced portions of what I would say success is, but ultimately, or today, it's definitely not about. It's not just money. It's about freedom to choose.
Would you say that you're successful on your terms?
No. I'm renting a house, and I'm on the road to it. Definitely. It beats the hell out of staying in bed all day. So yeah, things are on the up and up. They're baby steps right now. And they're much more, there's an amount of fear that I have that I haven't had before, and I want to shake it, because no good things are going to come when decisions are made that are laced with fear. So I gotta shake the fear and get back into the mindset of taking leaps and not worrying about what it looks like, just knowing that need to take the leap when I feel that the time is right to take the leap. What that leap is, I have no idea.
How do you define failure?
Well, I mean, failure is having no freedom at all. Owing a bunch of money and not being able to live where I want to live and not being able to buy the groceries that I need to buy for myself and my child. Owing a bunch of money. I mean, I said that twice. Yeah, when things don't work out the way I thought they would in my head.
Looking back on your career, can you see a failure that ultimately set you up for success? That at the time felt so overwhelming and so crushing that now looking back was ultimately the impetus to get you to where you are today?
Well, my relationship with Michael, I would say, was a failure. What happened to Michael, or what happened, is a tragedy. The decision, maybe the fork or the T in the road, I believe that was a fundamental T in the road. I could have caved at that point and gone into a deep depression. Instead, I chose to move forward. And that set me up for some successes along the way, leading up into Geist and Lulu. But I'm not there yet right now. I mean, I feel like this is while what happened with Michael is a heartbreaking tragedy, my failure, it's not my failure. I can stop saying my failure. That's a huge thing. I say the failure of businesses, of Lulu and Geist, or my role in Lulu and Geist. The fruits of that I haven't seen those yet. But I'm on the way there.
What does happiness look like to you?
I mean, there's times where it's like you just feel like you're firing on all cylinders. And, it's like your work life, your personal life, your spiritual life, you're just on the road of, it's like every step, it's like a momentum that builds. And so I don't believe that there's like ultimate happiness. There's just, it's that deliberate pursuit of it, perhaps.
How would you describe what you do for a living?
I'm in the business of people. I used to think that. I mean, when someone would interview me, I would say that I'm not really in the restaurant business. I'm in the people, human business.
What would you say to 18-year-old Miranda?
Thank God you didn't die. God, I don't know. I wouldn't change anything, really. I mean, I wouldn't change anything. 18-year-old Miranda was wild and irresponsible, but it was an important, that wildness and irresponsibleness and defiance was crucial. And I mean, that has been a common theme. He couldn't tell me to do something when I was 18, and he certainly couldn't tell me now. So,
Miranda Pontes, thank you for talking to me.
It's like I've been in therapy. Thank you. This was great. Thank you.
The Days Between is a production of Noah Abrams Studio. Story editing by Andrew Henry. Mixing and mastering by Todd Stapera and reference recording. Website design by John Fisher. Theme music is by Evo. The Days Between can be found online at www.thedaysbetweenpodcast.com and on Instagram at The Days Between Podcast. My name is Noah Abrams. Thanks for listening.